in the game against Cal Poly, 6 Trojans recorded double digits. I think they're sharing the ball really well. Everyone's getting touches, everyone's seeing playing time, and they're just continuing to grow and build their game.
Yeah, and to further your point, shooting 17 of 36 from the three-point line, you're going to be unbeatable if you shoot that clip consistently. This is a serious national championship contender. This USC Trojans women's basketball team, we knew with Juju returning, obviously this squad was going to be talented, but the newcomers, the freshmen, everyone is playing together, and it's starting to blend really well for the Trojans.
USC proved themselves as a number 3 team and potentially a number 1 team. When you're beating teams with that great of a deficit, just shows how dominant they are. I think this game is great for the team, great to kickstart their momentum for the rest of the season, and we'll see how far they go, potentially March Madness, make it all the way. We'll see what happens with the Trojans.
Well, speaking of a program that hasn't been doing so well, USC football has another fumble, but this time it's off the field as the NCAA has put the team on probation for coaching violations. Lincoln Riley had little to say about the probation.
Jen made a statement. I honestly don't really have anything to add. I mean, we've had that behind us now for multiple months and have been past it. I know the way that these things work in this world is announcements, aren't able to come out a lot sooner. And honestly, it's something I'd love to be able to discuss more and go into, but we got way more important things than that right now, getting this team ready for this game, and that's where our focus will stay.
The news broke Tuesday in an investigation that, as Lincoln Riley said, had been wrapped up for a couple of months. USC Athletic Director Jen Cohen had this response. USC has worked cooperatively with the NCAA enforcement staff and with the Committee on Infractions. We remain committed to upholding the highest standards of ethical behavior and integrity in our athletic programs. The program was placed on 1 year of probation and fined $50,000 for restriction for the special teams analyst from practice and film review for 6 consecutive days during 2 weeks of the 2024-2025 season. Virtually, the program exceeded the amount of allowed coaches and is now facing consequences. With a struggling season already and some calling for Lincoln Riley to be on the chopping block, will this probation push the program over the edge? Only time will tell.
The new college football playoff format consists of 12 teams this year. Automatic bids are given to the Power 4 conference champions, which are seeded 1 through 4 regardless of overall ranking. The Group 5 conference champion will be seeded where it was ranked or at number 12 if it is outside of the top 12 rankings. From there, the 7 at-large teams will make up the remainder of the bracket, beginning with the number 5 team. I know that all sounds complicated, so let's break it down. This is what the college football playoff bracket would look like if the season ended today. We've got Oregon winning the Big Ten, Miami representing for the ACC, BYU for the Big 12, and Texas taking the bid for the SEC. The Big Ten and SEC clearly continue to reign supreme in terms of the rest of the bracket. It was a quiet week for the Big Ten's projected playoff teams, with Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State, and Indiana all winning. However, the same cannot be said for the SEC, as Georgia fell to Ole Miss and LSU was completely eliminated from playoff contention as a result to their loss to Alabama. What do you guys think? Is this new 12 playoff bracket going to be effective for college football? And if so, who do we think is going to win the title?
I think it has not been effective for me actually so far. If anything, it makes it easier for bottom teams to get higher progression and get a spot in the playoffs. I mean, BYU at the 4th seed, I'm confident that either Ole Miss or Penn State would be able to beat that team either way. And then Indiana, after their performance against Michigan this weekend, didn't look great as well. I think it's it's interesting to see. Obviously, it's good for the fans, and don't get me wrong, I want more teams to be in the playoffs, but you want those powerhouses to be in there, and right now they're not really in the top 4.
Liam, I'm going to have to strongly disagree with you on this one. I think the 4-team playoff was super ineffective. We saw last season Florida State being left out, being undefeated Power 5 conference champions. That is controversial. Some people have their opinions, but at the end of the day, it brought up the point that there needed to be a change. You can't have these teams being left out when they're doing every possible thing that they can do to get in and they don't get in. So while there might be some issues now, things will play out with the rest of the season, and I'm interested to see how the final thing will come out.
Yeah, I think this 12 playoff format is going to be huge for college football. This is the excitement that we see in basketball and why people love March Madness so much. The games will be competitive with every snap counting and millions of viewers tuned in to see who will be the champion. In terms of who I think will be the champion, I think Miami is kind of the dark horse of this playoff bracket. They entered week 5 with the best odds of winning. Those odds may have changed due to their loss to Georgia Tech, but I still think with their next 2 playoff games against Wake Forest, or their next games against Wake Forest and Syracuse, that will help them build up their confidence, and they will win the ACC championship and then take it all the way.
Well, to your point, Devyn, I think this new format is letting teams like Miami shine and conferences other than the SEC to shine. The Big Ten now has 4 of the top 5 teams in the CFP rankings, which is crazy to see. It's just kind of showing that there's a new era of college football that is coming.
Yeah, not to mention the fact that there could be a playoff game played at home. I think that would be huge for fans.
That would be super exciting. But this week, USC alumni and fans are remembering former USC head football coach John Robinson, who passed away Monday at the age of 89. He coached the Trojans from 1976 to 1982. Coach Robinson took over from legendary coach John McKay in 1976 after winning 2 national championships as his offensive coordinator. He also coached the Los Angeles Rams from 1983 to 1991 and came back to USC to coach in 1993.
I'm really sad the loss of John Robinson. I mean, I have a picture of me and him, when I broke the record here in my office right now. And, I'm laughing, he's laughing. I still have that picture, and it's an old black and white picture, but it's just one of the first pictures that we took. We talked. He wanted me to have that 2,000 yards. I wanted it bad because I got close my first year, and he told me, he said, "I told you I'd get it for you." So yeah, so I remember that very vividly. When he handed me the ball and said, "I told you I'd get it for you." So yeah, so like I say, he made me. God first, but he made me the player that I was,
In his 7 years with the Trojans, Coach Robinson had a record of 104-35 with 4 ties. He won the 1978 National Championship, went 4-0 in Rose Bowl games, and coached 2 Heisman Trophy winners. Annenberg Media spoke to other players, including one of those Heisman winners.
And you knew that he cared. So it was not just as a football player, but he was a person too, and he wanted the very, very best for you, and I think he pushed you, and he pushed you because I think he saw things in us that we didn't see in ourselves.
I mean, he was just a galvanizer of men, of young men. He had a real interpersonal, unique gift of being able to connect with people. I mean, it didn't matter what race, what year, what your position was. He made everybody feel special.
USC plans to hold a celebration of Coach Robinson's life at the end of the college football season. What a great way to honor such an important part of USC history, and let's keep that going because now Casey joins us to share about this week in Trojan history. Casey?
Thanks, Grace. Welcome back to This Week in Trojan History. Today we're going to look back at the 1972 National Championship winning USC Trojan football team because the current team released some sweet throwbacks, paying homage to John McKay's undefeated squad. USC is known to typically avoid making uniform tweaks in order to keep tradition intact, but the team announced that this Saturday they will wear throwback jerseys with a different striping pattern on the shoulders, as well as a block-style numeral font. These kits resemble the team's 1970s look, a decade when the Trojans won 3 national championships. But the team specifically nodded to the 1972 team, the group that beat Ohio State in the Rose Bowl. Under legendary coach John McKay, the 1972 team featured plenty of all-time greats, including Lynn Swann, Anthony Davis, and Pat Hayden. USC claimed its 7th national title after winning all 12 games, with most coming in blowout fashion. So let's just say it makes sense that the current team would want to dress the similar part. USC would also win national titles in 1974 and 1978, which then began the Trojans' 25-year championship drought. I guess we'll just have to see if the Trojans can play anything like those dominant 1970s teams when they sport the retro look on Saturday. Now, I love the BGs and tie-dye t-shirts, but that's enough of the 70s. Back to the desk for more football chatter.
And now it's time for a little segment we like to call Meet the Opponent. This weekend, the Trojans will host the Nebraska Cornhuskers, so let's take a look at some of their key players, starting with Isaiah Neyor. The 4'6", 220-pound receiver from Fort Worth, Texas is the Cornhuskers' most reliable target. He leads Nebraska this season with 25 catches for 408 yards, averaging 16.3 yards per reception. He's also recorded 5 receiving touchdowns. This is the senior's first year with Nebraska, and he has played every game with 6 starts this season.
This weekend, I'll be watching Nebraska's sophomore running back Dante Dowdell. Dowdell currently leads the Cornhuskers with 112 carries, 471 rushing yards, and 8 rushing touchdowns. In the last 6 of 9 games, the sophomore has led Nebraska in rushing, and his 8 rushing touchdowns are the most by a Husker back since the 2019 season. Dowdell set career highs in their matchup against Colorado with 17 carries, 74 rushing yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns.
Well, those are good picks, Grace and Devyn, but I have to flip it to the defensive side and talk about the junior defensive back, Malcolm Hartzog Jr. The 5'9", 180-pound ball hawk leads the Cornhuskers secondary with the most interceptions on the year. Hartzog is a lockdown corner who you do not want to throw in the direction of, who also totals 27 tackles on the season. Keep an eye on number 7 in the scarlet jerseys this Saturday. Well, those are some players to keep an eye on your radar, but Saturday overall, Grace, how do you think that the Cornhuskers match up with the Trojans, and what are your expectations?
Well, I think this game will definitely be a test for Jaden Maiava. He's kind of being thrown into this team. It is USC's last glimmer of hope after coming off of dropping the last 4 of 5 games. So it's really going to be tricky to see what happens. I don't really know if Jaden Maiava will fit into Lincoln Riley's offensive scheme, but if they want to beat Nebraska, so this will be their last hope.
Yeah, I mean, both teams have similar overall and conference records. USC is 4-6 overall, 2-5 in the Big Ten, and Nebraska is 5-4 overall, 2-4 in the Big Ten. So USC needs to win 2 of its 3 next games to compete to be eligible for a bowl game, while Nebraska only needs to win 1. So that being said, I think this game is going to be extremely competitive. USC is favored to win by 8.5 points, which kind of feels like a lot. Yeah. I mean, defensively, the Trojans are only allowing 23 points per game, which if someone had told us that at the beginning of the season, we would have thought that by now we would have a winning record. But, you know, offensively is where we are struggling, and so I think we're getting a little bit more juice with the quarterback switch to Jaden Maiava. He's a more mobile quarterback than Miller Moss, but I think that USC needs to win these next 3 games with Jaden Maiava to show that Lincoln Riley is still the quarterback coach that the Trojans had hoped for, and it starts with the win on Saturday.
Yeah, and I think in terms of game plan, it's interesting that you bring in Maiava this week. Nebraska run defense, very, very good. So I'd like to see Maiava come in and throw the ball from the start of the game. There are going to be times where it looks like he might be making bad decisions, bad reads, whatever it may be, but those little glimpses of hope, you have nothing to lose at this point in the Trojans season. You've got, you know, scandals glooming. You got a losing record after beating a top 25 team the first game of the season. So, you know, we'll see if they can turn it around. In terms of Dylan Raiola, I think you got to disguise the coverages a lot. He's a guy who also gets confused. 10 touchdowns and 8 interceptions on the season. That reminds you a lot of a former USC quarterback, Miller Moss's stat line in terms of the breakdown between touchdowns and interceptions. We'll see how it all turns out this Saturday.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you guys. Both teams coming off a bye and reaching for that last hope in a bowl game. But with one USC team struggling to get in the win column, USC women's soccer has been a dominant force this season, and they're about to head to the NCAA tournament. What do you know about this, Scott?
Yeah, thank you, Grace. Well, you said it. Women's soccer has had a historic season so far, winning the Big Ten regular season title in their first year in the conference, but falling out of the conference tournament after playing Rutgers. The women of Troy had a bye in the first round of the Big Ten tournament, but beat Ohio State in overtime in the quarterfinals 1-0. The Trojans were tied with Rutgers at the end of regulation in the semifinals, but Rutgers advanced on PKs 3-0. UCLA went on to win the tournament title. On Monday, the seedings were announced for the 64-team NCAA tournament that will start on Friday. The Trojans received a number 1 seed thanks to their 15-1-3 record. Let's take a look at my predictions in their quadrant of the bracket. The Trojans will face Sacramento State in the first round of the tournament at home. If the women of Troy play as they have all season, they should have a clear path through the first couple of rounds. I anticipate they'll narrowly beat a Kansas team that has been on a hot win streak in the second round, and then the path gets a little more competitive for them. I see a Virginia team that has had time to rest and recently beat a strong Virginia Tech team, giving USC a run for their money with the Trojans ultimately coming out on top. On the other side of the quadrant, I see Colorado outplaying Georgia, but the rest going as expected, giving us a USC-Wake Forest matchup in the Elite Eight. 2 strong teams, but a good opportunity for USC to make the Final Four. The Trojans should feel pretty good about the quadrant they were drawn into, with the path to their best NCAA finish since 2019 looking likely. Their first game in the tournament starts at 2 p.m. on Sunday. Well, women's volleyball had a busy weekend of conference play in the Midwest. And women's basketball is off to a convincing start with a number of new players. All that and more when we come back.
Trail shot from three is good. For the Trojans, 3 freshmen and 3 sophomores. Really young lineup out there for USC.
Presenting Sheer Madness, Circuit City's Midnight Madness Sale. Wednesday only till midnight. Circuit City will go raving mad with shocking reductions on hundreds of items. Wednesday only, this Sony 19-inch color TV with remote control, just $397. Save on this JVC compact disc player, just $198. Circuit City's Midnight Madness Sale. Get there by midnight before the curtain falls.
What? There's something under the bed. I heard something. There's nothing under the bed. I heard something. See, look. It's just Fluffy. He got scared by a dumb cat. I wasn't scared. I told you there was nothing under the bed.
Gosh, Burger Chef, it's Wolfburger the werewolf. Where can I get delicious burgers? Where can I get fun food? Where, oh where? At Burger Chef. Where?
And now at participating Burger Chefs, you can buy fun meals that now come on Halloween magic meal trays. There's a magic trick in each fun meal. There are 10 different magic meal tricks you can collect.
Burger Chef, you're incredible.
Welcome back to Sports Scene. As we mentioned, USC's women's basketball is off to a historic start to the season, gaining buzz. After scoring 63 points off of turnovers, the Trojans racked up 124 points through 40 minutes of play. Setting records is not new for this team, but they also had the largest margin of victory in program history. Coach Gottlieb also got her flowers, winning her 300th game as a head coach. Casey and Liam have more now about how Trojan newcomers fit perfectly into USC's puzzle.
Thank you, Grace. Casey and I discussed the dominant USC women's basketball squad, who set 3 records last night at the Galen Center. Coming into this season, it was obvious Juju Watkins would have success, but the newcomers are what is worth highlighting. Casey, what do you got?
Yeah, well, Liam, Talia von Oelhoffen had a solid game last night with 13 points, but there was one play in particular that really showed how she can run the offense on the fly. Now, defending on the defensive end, you can see Rhea Marshall get the block. Trojans are in fast break mode, and Talia von Oelhoffen comes inside the paint, bringing 3 defenders with her, looking out to Kennedy Smith in the corner. And at that point, Kennedy Smith's open, instantly swinging it over to Juju Watkins. And at that point, also, 4 defenders are at or inside the key, and so Juju Watkins, with plenty of daylight, we know that when she's open with daylight from that spot, she's money, and the Trojans go up by 40.
Yeah, you definitely cannot leave Juju Watkins wide open, and if Talia can get going, it'll be a good sign for the Trojans offense. For me, I'm going to take arguably the scariest player on this entire roster, not Juju Watkins, I'm talking Kiki Iriafen. The transfer from Stanford has been nothing but special in her first 3 games with the Trojans, averaging 16.3 points on 50% shooting and 7.7 rebounds a game. Let's roll the tape. This is the set that is so scary for the Trojans offense. Kiki usually would be on that low block position posting up. In this situation, she's on the elbow. That spaces out so much in this kind of 5-out set. Juju Watkins one-on-one. She swings to Kiki and she knocks it down. She only attempted 6 3-pointers at Stanford the entire season. This year, she's already attempted 3 at USC and made 2. That's a good shooting percentage clip.
Yeah, we know they have so many versatile players like Iriafen, so it'll be interesting to see the rest of the way. The Trojans have a stout group of young freshmen that have already seen hefty playing opportunities. So combined with those newcomers, those transfers, Iriafen and von Oelhoffen, it'll be really interesting to see how they go down the stretch here. But Devyn will take us and talk about more women's sports. Devyn?
The women's volleyball team took a trip to the Midwest over the weekend to face off against Illinois and Indiana. The Trojans dropped a hard-fought 5-set match to Illinois on Friday. Mia Tuaninga dished out 50 assists and had a season-high 5 service aces, along with 5 digs and 2 blocks. Jaden Livings had a career-high 22.5 points collected on 16 kills, 5 aces, and 3 blocks. Then on Sunday, the Trojans downed Indiana in 4 sets. In her return to her alma mater, Gray Gosnell opened the night by singing the national anthem in front of the 1,737 fans in attendance. Allie Batenhorst led the Trojans with 20 kills and a career-high 18 digs. Redshirt junior Tyra Ariel recorded 10 kills, reaching double digits for the second time this season. TikTok has become one of the largest social platforms for Gen Z, and the women's volleyball team has been ahead of the curve when it comes to creating content on the app, all thanks to one of their student managers. Let's meet the mastermind behind these viral videos.
My name is Hayden Phillips. I am a senior. I'm studying intelligence and cyber operations with a specialization in digital forensics and also getting a Bachelor of Arts in Public Relations. And I'm the head manager of the team and I run their TikTok account. I played volleyball in high school and I always had a really good time. And I wasn't gonna play in college, but I thought managing could be the best way to get involved with that. And I think I also always wanted to do social media, and so it kind of seemed like it all lined up perfectly and I got to do both.
In 2021, Hayden asked the coaching staff if she could create a TikTok account for the team. Since then, the page has grown to 127,000 followers, making it the most engaged account of all USC athletic teams.
I can't even say it's like me or like me being on top of it. I feel like I just have to credit the girls so much because they've also been so supportive of me taking this on. They're all really excited and I think that makes my job so much easier.
The social media platform has helped players build their personal brands and make a connection with fans off the court.
A lot of our audience is able to see exactly who we are off the court. Whenever I do like USA tryouts or I meet other people from different teams like the Big Ten or what was the Pac-12, they always mention our TikTok and they're always like, "Oh, you guys seem like such a fun team, like the vibes look so good from our TikToks." And I'm like, "Wow, like, I mean, we are a fun team." So I think Hayden does a really good job helping us get there.
I always think the videos come through a lot better when they're close with the person behind the camera. I think it comes across a lot more fluid. The personality videos, that's where more of the trends come in. I'm looking at the sounds that they're using, what words they're saying, what the trend is, and then trying to actually match it with girls on the team who I think maybe would do the best job at kind of giving that energy.
Who are you? I'm Pam. Who are you? I'm the owner of this house. Mommy not mad at you. Mommy not mad at your baby.
And then the practice ones, the game day ones, I think actually a lot about myself in high school. When I was looking at different colleges, I was looking at all these other TikTok pages, volleyball college TikTok pages, and I was like, oh, like, I wish they did more of this. I wish I could see more of their behind the scenes. I wish X, Y, and Z. And so I'm trying to include all of that. I'm trying to show the work ethic, the culture, what they do every day, what happens behind the scenes, because I think the game days here are so special. And I feel so lucky every single time to be a part of it. I'm like, oh my God, like I get to be here and I get to be with these amazing, amazing people and I get to film it and call them my friends and my family, and like, it's just incredible. And like, I want to show everyone else what I get to see every day.
For more content from the team, you can follow them on all social media platforms at USC Women's Volley.
More success all the way around for Trojan Athletics as we run through quick updates in a loaded week of SC sports. Let's start with Stefan Brankovic and the USC men's water polo squad. Sophomore Stefan Brankovic won the MPSF West Newcomer of the Week award for his 2-goal and 2-assist effort against number 14 UC Santa Barbara. Brankovic has scored in 5 consecutive games for the Trojans, standing as USC's 4th leading scorer this season with 26 goals.
USC's Jasmine Koo and Catherine Park have been named to the Annika Award Final Fall watch list. After wrapping up the fall season, the freshman and junior join a list of 25 of the top female collegiate golfers. Jasmine Koo is currently the #1 player in individual rankings with a stroke average of 69.6 and 3 top 10 finishes. Catherine Park is ranked 12th and also has 3 top 10 finishes, and her stroke average is 71.3. The Trojans are one of the 4 schools with at least 2 players on the latest Annika watch list.
USC broke ground on the Bloom Football Performance Center last Thursday. The 160,000 square foot complex will serve as the new home of Trojan football. Over $160 million has been raised thus far for the project from more than 30 contributors. The cutting-edge facility will feature 2 full-length outdoor practice fields, 1 turf and 1 grass. The 3-level complex will also include a locker room, recovery space, areas for nutrition and training, a team auditorium, and meeting rooms. The lobby will showcase USC's 11 national championships and 8 Heisman trophies, the most of any program in the country, and will include a space to honor the 176 Trojan All-Americans. The facility is named after Ronald H. Bloom in honor of his $50 million contribution to the project. Construction will begin early next year and is scheduled to be complete by the start of the 2026 season. Now for everyone's favorite debate of the week, let's send it over to Thomas and Terrence to hear more about their Trojan standouts.
I was a sickly old man last week, but don't worry, I'm back for another round of spirited debate. Welcome back to Trojan of the Week. I'm joined on the couch by Terrence Holton. Let's get this week started with Allie Batenhorst of USC Women's Volleyball. Allie Batenhorst hit 20 kills for the 3rd time this season against Indiana, but it was her defense that makes her the Trojan of the Week. She notched a career-high 18 digs against the Hoosiers in a 4-set win for the Trojans.
My Trojan of the Week was part of a record-breaking USC team this past week. Women's basketball's Kaylee Heckel. This past week, Heckel helped the Trojans to 2 wins, scoring a career-high 16 points against Cal Poly, and followed it up with 14 in a historic win over Cal State Northridge.
Well, I want to start this conversation
hear it.
Because you mentioned record-breaking night. Sure, it was
You were
for
on
USC
color
women's
commentary.
basketball.
You should know that, yeah.
85-point victory. She scored 14 of those points.
14, yep.
If you take out Heckel's performance, USC still wins by 71.
That's a
How
great
could she be
point.
Trojan of the Week if she was not that vital to the winning performance?
You know, Thomas, it doesn't really matter about the competition. It matters about the quality of the win. And Kaylee Heckel really
The quality of the win against a CSUN team that's
still
3-27
it's a historic
last year?
win. You said that very much. You were on the call last night. It was Lindsey Gottlieb's 300th, excuse me. It was a 300th? Why am I saying that like that? 300th win. It was the highest points ever in program history and the highest margin of victory. You should know that was a historic
That's a
night.
team performance.
Yeah.
That is not
Can we talk
Kaylee
let's talk
Heckel scoring
let's talk about
124
Allie
points.
Batenhorst. I feel like you forgot an important thing, and that is that she lost last week. Let's talk about the Illinois game. She was the 3rd highest in digs. You mentioned her incredibly impressive performance against Indiana. I'll admit that. It was great on defense. Against Illinois, it wasn't fantastic. She had 8 digs. That was 3rd highest
She's
on
not
the
a
team.
defensive player. She's
But
the team's
you can't
leading
mention
killer.
the defense in one.
Oh, yeah,
and then
you
not
can.
that's
It was a
ridiculous.
career high. She's been playing. She played at Nebraska. She's a graduate now. You can mention a career high in digs. I'm sorry. That is a terrible argument. Because, mind you, USC won 5 sets last week. 60% of the sets, if you take
won
away
5 sets and lost 3 lost more than 3, but they also lost 5.
Terrence, well, let me finish my point, please.
They won
5 sets. They won 5 sets.
Okay.
60% of those sets, if you take away Batenhorst kills, USC loses them.
Okay.
So 60%.
They did also lose one of those sets.
No. I'm talking about the sets that they won. They won 5 sets.
They still also lost a match, though.
60% of those sets. Okay. Are we?
It's part of a team thing. It's a part of a team thing.
It's in conference play.
Okay.
And you're talking about Cal Poly and CSUN.
You know, you just have to think about how much they won by, and they took care of their opponents. Unlike
they didn't need Heckel to win; they needed Batenhorst to win. But we're being told we need to wrap up, and it's just too bad that Terrence is just too fresh to beat the seasoned veteran in me. But we are going to head to break, and led by quarterback Matthew Stafford, the Rams are on the fringe of making the playoffs. Our analyst breaks down the Rams' recent struggles. And with 31 players in the NFL, there is no lack of talent from USC in the pros. We break down who's showing out this season.
Let me tell you how we amplify our Latine voices. Check out Dímelo. We have it all. Deportes.
Entertainment. Noticias. ¿Qué tal? Soy Mariela Gómez y bienvenidos a Dime la Hora.
Radio and podcasting.
Comida y cultura. Digital social media.
¿A qué equipo le vas tú? LA Galaxy o LAFC? Dímelo is the only Latina-focused media outlet at USC. Dímelo. We have it all.
Dímelo. We have it all.
Next to my big friend, I love the big taste of chocolate in this little Hershey's
Hershey's Kisses, the little kiss with the big taste.
This morning, Billy looked like any other boy, but as the moon rose, he turned into a werewolf. He used new Pa's Halloween makeup kits. His friends did too. Look, Mike's a vampire. Amy's a ghost. Pa's makeup is safer than masks. It never blocks vision, and it's hypoallergenic too. So watch your kids turn into the creatures they really are with new Pa's Halloween makeup kits.
Welcome back to Sports Scene. With a 4-5 record, the Rams are now a fringe team for making the playoffs. Our reporter Daniel Palmore has more.
Bright for the Los Angeles Rams on Monday night as the Miami Dolphins rolled into SoFi and snapped Los Angeles' 3-game winning streak.
Rams offense hasn't done anything yet, and a sack on top of it all.
The Rams offense failed to score a single touchdown against Miami after averaging 25 points per game in their previous 3 outings after their bye week. LA also turned the ball over twice and failed to capitalize on 2 Dolphins turnovers. The Rams are currently not in the NFC playoff picture, and with 8 games left, it will be a tough task to get there with matchups against the Eagles, Bills, 49ers, and Cardinals still on the schedule. All those teams have winning records and would make the playoffs if the tournament started today. The Rams will try to bounce back next week against the 3-7 New England Patriots, who are coming off a dominant win over the Chicago Bears. And that's all for the Rams. Let's toss it over to the couch to hear about some former Trojans lighting it up in the pros.
Thank you, Daniel. Staying with the topic of the NFL, there has been some familiar faces this year having success in the pros. That is, Trojans in the NFL. You can't mention former Trojans in the league without talking about the safety for the Houston Texans, rookie Kalen Bullock. The 3rd-round draft pick has entered the Texans franchise and filled a safety position that was extremely important for their success. Bullock has 4 interceptions on the year to complement his 30 tackles as Houston sits atop the AFC South at 6-4. Some of that success can be credited to former Trojan Kalen Bullock.
Drafted in 2021 in the 4th round, Amon-Ra St. Brown is one of the standout players on the best team in the NFC North. This season, Brown has totaled 524 yards with 54 receptions. Tallying up 7 touchdowns, Brown ranks 2nd in the league in receiving touchdowns. The wide receiver is a consistent target for the Lions and has proven to be one of the best receivers in the league.
Well, it's been a season of ups and downs for Vikings quarterback Sam Darnold. After a strong 5-0 start to the season, Darnold's play is starting to plateau as his turnovers increase significantly. While his completion percentage of 74.2% is still high, the Vikings QB has thrown 6 interceptions in the last 4 games since that 5-0 start. In their November 3rd matchup against the Colts, Darnold had 3 touchdowns and an 82.4% completion rate, but had 2 interceptions. And last week's game against the Jags was even worse, with 3 interceptions, 2 of them being in the end zone. Despite his shaky performance, the Vikings found a way to come out on top in their last 2 games, but they will definitely look to Darnold to step up his play for the rest of the season. Well, guys, it's always fun when watching the NFL to see some of those former USC players winning or losing.
Yeah, and all on good teams. I mean, the Lions 8-1, Vikings 7-2, Texans 6-4.
Especially with the USC Trojans losing, it's fun to see some of those former players, go on to winning teams and have hopes for the other players.
Definitely. Well, that's all the time we have for today on Sports Scene. I'm Grace Schneider.
I'm Ervin.
And I'm Devyn Dyett. We'll see you next week.